Section 30 of the Art of Cookery made plain and easy by Hannah Glasse. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 13. To pot and make hams, etc. To pot pigeons or fowls. Cut off their legs, draw them, and wipe them with a cloth, but do not wash them. Season them pretty well with pepper and salt. Put them into a pot with as much butter as you think will cover them. When melted and baked very tender, then drain them very dry from the gravy. Lay them on a cloth, and that will suck up all the gravy. Season them again with salt, mace, cloves and pepper, beaten fine, and put them down close into a pot. Take the butter when cold, clear from the gravy, set it before the fire to melt, and pour over the birds. If you have not enough, clarify some more, and let the butter be near an inch thick above the birds. Thus you may do all sorts of fowl. Only wild fowl should be boned, but that you may do as you please. To pot a cold tongue, beef or venison. Cut it small, beat it well in a marble mortar with melted butter. Season it with mace, cloves and nutmeg, beat very fine, and some pepper and salt, till the meat is mellow and fine. Then put it down close in your pots, and cover it with clarified butter. Thus you may do cold wild fowl, or you may pot any sort of cold fowl whole, seasoning them with what spice you please. To pot venison. Take a piece of venison, fat and lean together, lay it in a dish and stick pieces of butter all over. Tie brown paper over it and bake it. When it comes out of the oven, take it out of the liquor hot, drain it and lay it in a dish. When cold, take off all the skin and beat it in a marble mortar, fat and lean together. Season it with mace, cloves, nutmeg, black pepper, and salt to your mind. When the butter is cold that it was baked in, take a little of it and beat in with it to moisten it. Then put it down close and cover it with clarified butter. You must be sure to beat it till it is like a paste. To pot a hare. Take a hare that has hung 4 or 5 days, case it and cut it in quarters. Put it in a pot, season it with pepper, salt and mace and a pound of butter over it, and bake it 4 hours. When it comes out, pick it from the bones and pound it in a mortar with the butter that comes off your gravy, and a little beaten cloves and mace, till it is fine and smooth. Then put it close down in potting pots, and put clarified butter over it. Tie it over with white paper. To pot tongues. Take a neat's tongue, rub it with a pound of white salt, an ounce of saltpetre, half a pound of coarse sugar, rub it well, turn it every day in this pickle for a fortnight. This pickle will do several tongues, only adding a little more white salt, or we generally do them after our hams. Take the tongues out of the pickle, cut off the root and boil it well till it will peel. Then take your tongues and season them with salt, pepper, cloves, mace and nutmeg, all beat fine. Rub it well with your hands whilst it is hot. Then put it in a pot and melt as much butter as will cover it all over. Bake it an hour in the oven. Then take it out, let it stand to cool, rub a little fresh spice on it, and when it is quite cold, lay it in your pickling pot. When the butter is cold you baked it in, take it off clean from the gravy, set it in an earthen pan before the fire, and when it is melted, pour it over the tongue. You may lay pigeons or chickens on each side. Be sure to let the butter be about an inch above the tongue. A fine way to pot a tongue. Take a dried tongue, boil it till it is tender. Take a large fowl, bone it, a goose, and bone it. Take 1/4 ounce of mace, 1/4 ounce of cloves, a large nutmeg, 1/4 ounce of black pepper. Beat all well together. A spoonful of salt. Rub the inside of the fowl well and the tongue. Put the tongue into the fowl, then season the goose and fill the goose with the fowl and tongue, and the goose will look as if it was whole. Lay it in a pan that will just hold it. Melt fresh butter enough to cover it. Send it to the oven and bake it an hour and a half. Then uncover the pot and take out the meat. Carefully drain it from the butter. Lay it on a coarse cloth till it is cold, and when the butter is cold, take off the hard fat from the gravy and lay it before the fire to melt. Put your meat into the pot again and pour the butter over. If there is not enough, clarify more, and let the butter be an inch above the meat, and this will keep a great while, eats fine, and looks beautiful. When you cut it, it must be cut crossways down through, and looks very pretty. It makes a pretty corner dish at table, or side dish for supper. If you cut a slice down the middle quite through, lay it in a plate, and garnish with green parsley and nasturtium flowers. If you will be at the expense, bone a turkey and put over the goose. Observe, when you pot it, to save a little of the spice to throw over it before the last butter is put on, or the meat will not be seasoned enough. To pot beef like venison. Cut the lean of a buttock of beef into pound pieces. For 8 pounds of beef, take 4 ounces of saltpetre. 4 ounces of petre salt, a pint of white salt, and an ounce of salprunella. Beat the salts all very fine, mix them well together, rub the salts into the beef, then let it lie 4 days, turning it twice a day. Then put it into a pan, cover it with pump water and a little of its own brine. Then bake it in an oven with household bread till it is as tender as a chicken. Then drain it from the gravy and bruise it abroad, and take out all the skin and sinews. Then pound it in a marble mortar, lay it in a broad dish, mix in it an ounce of cloves and mace, 3/4 ounce of pepper and 1 nutmeg, all beat very fine. Mix it all very well with the meat, then clarify a little fresh butter and mix with the meat to make it a little moist. Mix it very well together. Press it down into pots very hard. Set it at the oven's mouth just to settle, and cover it 2 inches thick with clarified butter. When cold, cover it with white paper. To pot Cheshire cheese. Take 3 pounds of Cheshire cheese and put it into a mortar with 1/2 pound of the best fresh butter you can get. Pound them together, and in the beating add a gill of rich Canary wine and 1/2 ounce of mace finely beat, then sifted like a fine powder. When all is extremely well mixed, press it hard down into a gallipot, cover it with clarified butter and keep it cool. A slice of this exceeds all the cream cheese that can be made. To collar a breast of veal. Take a breast of veal and bone it. Beat it with a rolling pin, rub it over with the yolk of an egg, beat a little mace, cloves, nutmeg and pepper very fine, with a little salt, a handful of parsley and some sweet herbs, and lemon peel shred fine, a few crumbs of bread. Mix all together and strew over. Roll it up very tight. Bind it with a fillet, and wrap it in a cloth. Then boil it 2 hours and a half in water made pretty salt, then hang it up by one end till cold. Make a pickle. To a pint of salt and water, put 1/2 pint of vinegar, and lay it in a pan, and let the pickle cover it, and when you use it, cut it in slices, and garnish with parsley and pickles. To make marble veal. Take a neat's tongue and boil it till tender. Peel it and cut it in slices and beat it in a mortar with a pound of butter, with a little beaten mace and pepper, till it is like a paste. Have some veal stewed and beat in the same manner. Put some veal in a potting pot, then some tongue in lumps over the veal, then some veal over that, tongue over that, and then veal again. Press it down hard. Pour some clarified butter over it, keep it in a cold, dry place, and when you use it, cut it in slices and garnish with parsley. To collar beef. Take a piece of thin flank of beef and bone it. Cut the skin off, then salt it with 2 ounces of saltpetre, 2 ounces of sal prunella, 2 ounces of bay salt, half a pound of coarse sugar, and 2 pounds of white salt. Beat the hard salts fine and mix all together. Turn it every day and rub it with the brine well for 8 days. Then take it out of the pickle, wash it and wipe it dry. Then take 1/4 ounce of cloves and 1/4 ounce of mace, 12 corns of allspice and a nutmeg beat very fine, with a spoonful of beaten pepper, a large quantity of chopped parsley with some sweet herbs chopped fine. Sprinkle it on the beef and roll it up very tight. Put a coarse cloth round and tie it very tight with beggar's tape. Boil it in a large copper of water. If a large collar, 6 hours, a small one, 5 hours. Take it out and put it in a press till cold. If you have never a press, put it between 2 boards and a large weight upon it till it is cold. Then take it out of the cloth and cut it into slices. Garnish with raw parsley. To collar salmon. Take a side of salmon, cut off about a handful of the tail. Wash your large piece very well and dry it with a cloth. Then wash it over with the yolks of eggs. Then make some forcemeat with that you cut off the tail. But take care of the skin, and put to it a handful of parboiled oysters, a tail or 2 of lobster, the yolks of 3 or 4 eggs boiled hard, 6 anchovies, a good handful of sweet herbs chopped small, a little salt, cloves, mace, nutmeg, pepper, all beat fine, and grated bread. Work all these together into a body with the yolks of eggs. Lay it all over the fleshy part, and a little more pepper and salt over the salmon. So roll it up into a collar, and bind it with broad tape. Then boil it in water, salt and vinegar, but let the liquor boil first. Then put in your collar, a bunch of sweet herbs, sliced ginger and nutmeg. Let it boil, but not too fast. It will take near 2 hours boiling, and when it is enough, take it up. Put it into your sousing pan, and when the pickle is cold, put it to your salmon, and let it stand in it till used. Or you may pot it. After it is boiled, pour clarified butter over it. It will keep longest so, but either way is good. If you pot it, be sure the butter be the nicest you can get. To make Dutch beef. Take the lean of a buttock of beef raw, rub it well with brown sugar all over, and let it lie in a pan or tray 2 or 3 hours, turning it 2 or 3 times. Then salt it well with common salt and saltpetre, and let it lie a fortnight, turning it every day. Then roll it very straight in a coarse cloth. Put it in a cheese press a day and a night, and hang it to dry in a chimney. When you boil it, you must put it in a cloth. When it is cold, it will cut in slivers as Dutch beef. To make sham brawn. Take the belly piece and head of a young pork, rub it well with saltpetre. Let it lie 3 or 4 days. Wash it clean. Boil the head and take off all the meat, and cut it in pieces. Have 4 neat's feet boiled tender. Take out the bones and cut it in thin slices, and mix it with the head, and lay it in the belly piece, and roll it up tight, and bind it round with sheet tin, and boil it 4 hours. Take it up and set it on one end. Put a trencher on it within the tin, and a large weight upon that, and let it stand all night. In the morning take it out, and bind it with a fillet. Put it in spring water and salt, and it will be fit for use. When you use it, cut it in slices like brawn. Garnish with parsley. Observe to change the pickle every 4 or 5 days, and it will keep a long time. To souse a turkey in imitation of sturgeon. You must take a fine large turkey, dress it very clean, dry and bone it, then tie it up as you do sturgeon. Put into the pot you boil it in 1 quart of white wine, 1 quart of water, 1 quart of good vinegar, and a very large handful of salt. Let it boil, skim it well, and then put in the turkey. When it is enough, take it out and tie it tighter. Let the liquor boil a little longer, and if you think the pickle wants more vinegar or salt, add it when it is cold, and pour it upon the turkey. It will keep some months, covering it close from the air and keeping it in a dry, cool place. Eat it with oil, vinegar, and sugar, just as you like it. Some admire it more than sturgeon. It looks pretty, covered with fennel, for a side dish. To pickle pork. Bone your pork, cut it into pieces, of a size fit to lie in the tub or pan you design it to lie in. Rub your pieces well with saltpetre, then take 2 parts of common salt and 2 of bay salt, and rub every piece well. Lay a layer of common salt in the bottom of your vessel. Cover every piece over with common salt. Lay them one upon another as close as you can, filling the hollow places on the sides with salt. As your salt melts on the top, strew on more. Lay a coarse cloth over the vessel, a board over that, and a weight on the board to keep it down. Keep it close covered. It will, thus ordered, keep the whole year. Put 1 pound of saltpetre and 2 pounds of bay salt to a hog. A pickle for pork which is to be eat soon. You must take 2 gallons of pump water, 1 pound of bay salt, 1 pound of coarse sugar, 6 ounces of saltpetre. Boil it all together and skim it when cold. Cut the pork in what pieces you please. Lay it down close and pour the liquor over it. Lay a weight on it to keep it close, and cover it close from the air, and it will be fit to use in a week. If you find the pickle begins to spoil, boil it again and skim it. When it is cold, pour it on your pork again. To make veal hams. Cut the leg of veal like a ham, then take a pint of bay salt, 2 ounces of saltpetre, and 1 pound of common salt. Mix them together with 1 ounce of juniper berries beat. Rub the ham well and lay it on a hollow tray with the skinny side downwards. Baste it every day with the pickle for a fortnight, and then hang it in wood smoke for a fortnight. You may boil it, or parboil it and roast it. In this pickle you may do 2 or 3 tongues, or a piece of pork. To make beef hams. You must take the leg of a fat but small beef, the fat Scotch or Welsh cattle is best, and cut it ham fashion. Take 1 ounce of bay salt, 1 ounce of saltpetre, 1 pound of common salt, and 1 pound of coarse sugar. This quantity for about 14 or 15 pounds weight, and so accordingly if you pickle the whole quarter. Rub it with the above ingredients. Turn it every day, and baste it well with the pickle for a month. Take it out and roll it in bran or sawdust, then hang it in wood smoke where there is but little fire and a constant smoke for a month. Then take it down and hang it in a dry place, not hot, and keep it for use. You may cut a piece off as you have occasion, and either boil it or cut it in rashers and broil it with poached eggs, or boil a piece and it eats fine cold, and will sliver like Dutch beef. After this beef is done, you may do a thick brisket of beef in the same pickle. Let it lie a month, rubbing it every day with the pickle, then boil it till it is tender. Hang it in a dry place, and it eats finely cold, cut in slices on a plate. It is a pretty thing for a side dish or for supper. A shoulder of mutton laid in this pickle for a week, hung in wood smoke 2 or 3 days, and then boiled with cabbage, is very good. To make mutton hams. You must take a hind quarter of mutton, cut it like a ham, take an ounce of saltpetre, a pound of coarse sugar, a pound of common salt. Mix them and rub your ham. Lay it in a hollow tray with the skin downwards. Baste it every day for a fortnight. Then roll it in sawdust and hang it in the wood smoke a fortnight. Then boil it and hang it in a dry place, and cut it out in rashers, and broil it as you want. To make pork hams. You must take a fat hind quarter of pork, and cut off a fine ham. Take 2 ounces of saltpetre, a pound of coarse sugar, a pound of common salt, and 2 ounces of salprionella. Mix all together and rub it well. Let it lie a month in this pickle, turning and basting it every day. Then hang it in wood smoke as you do beef in a dry place, so as no heat comes to it. And if you keep them long, hang them a month or 2 in a damp place, and it will make them cut fine and short. Never lay these hams in water till you boil them, and then boil them in a copper if you have one, or the biggest pot you have. Put them in the cold water and let them be 4 or 5 hours before they boil. Skim the pot well and often till it boils. If it is a very large one, 3 hours will boil it. If a small one, 2 hours will do, provided it be a great while before the water boils. Take it up half an hour before dinner, pull off the skin, and throw raspings finely sifted all over. Hold a red-hot fire shovel over it, and when dinner is ready, take a few raspings in a sieve and sift all over the dish. Then lay in your ham, and with your finger make fine figures round the edge of the dish. Be sure to boil your ham in as much water as you can, and to keep it skimming all the time till it boils. It must be at least 4 hours before it boils. This pickle does finely for tongues. Afterwards, to lie in it a fortnight, and then hang in the wood smoke a fortnight, or to boil them out of the pickle. Yorkshire is famous for hams, and the reason is this. Their salt is much finer than ours in London. It is a large clear salt, and gives the meat a fine flavour. I used to have it from Malden in Essex, and that salt will make any ham as fine as you can desire. It is by much of the best salt for salting of meat. A deep hollow wooden tray is better than a pan, because the pickle swells about it. When you broil any of these hams in slices or bacon, have some boiling water ready, and let the slices lie a minute or 2 in the water, then broil them. It takes out the salt and makes them eat finer. To make bacon. Take a side of pork, then take off all the inside fat. Lay it on a long board or dresser, that the blood may run away. Rub it well with good salt on both sides. Let it lie thus a day. Then take a pint of bay salt, a quarter of a pound of saltpetre, beat them fine, 2 pounds of coarse sugar, and a quarter of a peck of common salt. Lay your pork in something that will hold the pickle, and rub it well with the above ingredients. Lay the skinny side downwards, and baste it every day with the pickle for a fortnight. Then hang it in wood smoke as you do the beef, and afterwards hang it in a dry place, but not hot. You are to observe that all hams and bacon should hang clear from everything and not against a wall. Observe to wipe off all the old salt before you put it into this pickle, and never keep bacon or hams in a hot kitchen or in a room where the sun comes. It makes them all rusty. To save potted birds that begin to be bad. I have seen potted birds which have come a great way, often smell so bad that nobody could bear the smell for the rankness of the butter, and by managing them in the following manner, have made them as good as ever was eat. Set a large saucepan of clean water on the fire. When it boils, take off the butter at the top, and take the fowls out one by one. Throw them into that saucepan of water half a minute. Whip it out and dry it in a clean cloth inside and out. So do all till they are quite done. Scald the pot clean. When the birds are quite cold, season them with mace, pepper and salt to your mind. Put them down close in a pot and pour clarified butter over them. To pickle mackerel, called caveach. Cut your mackerel into round pieces, and divide one into 5 or 6 pieces. To 6 large mackerel, you may take 1 ounce of beaten pepper, 3 large nutmegs, a little mace, and a handful of salt. Mix your salt and beaten spice together, then make 2 or 3 holes in each piece, and thrust the seasoning into the holes with your finger. Rub the piece all over with the seasoning. Fry them brown in oil and let them stand till they are cold. Then put them into vinegar and cover them with oil. They will keep well covered a great while and are delicious. End of section 30.